Okie dokie then. Right. Let's get rid of all this nonsense on my mobile phone. Start at the very beginning. So this is quite a long time ago. Let's actually see the date on this. This is 18th of the 2nd, 2013. Oh God, what a young child I was. Due to the massive increase in population over the last few millennia, mutations are thousands of times more likely, but take far longer to spread. In theory, there are hundreds of mutations globally that we have no idea exist. Also, such drastic mutations such as those that produced humans can occur over millions of years. Surely with a population thousands of times larger, drastic mutations should occur far more frequently. Okay. What else you got, Hans? The evolution of swearing. Oh yeah, that was something I quite like the idea of. I quite like the idea of swear words dying out in terms of being classified as swear words. I mean, really, I think we just can't somehow create new ones maybe, or words take on new meanings that do the work of a swear word. But obviously, if you think about centuries ago, just the phrase "oh God" was considered blasphemy and swearing and all that, and outrageous. Now, fuck is fairly commonplace. In countries like Australia, they use cunt as an endearing term, which I quite like. So yeah, I just quite like the idea of, the loss of, well, what is it really? It's not the power of one word to be considered hateful. It's quite strong. Maybe we could diminish that. And I think we're pretty much on the way to doing it already. Obviously there are some special cases like racial slurs, but hopefully they'll find a way around that. I mean, the N-word, and there's obviously all kinds of, I'm not going to get into the arguments about the use of the N-word, but it's a similar concept. What else we got? Shall we see? Oh, yes. Yeah, that's great. This was a mathematical formula that I worked out. N, open brackets, n plus 2, close brackets, plus 1 equals, open brackets, open second brackets, n plus open brackets, n plus 2, close brackets, / 2, close brackets, to the power of 2. This was a cat we had. Came up with different names for it. Chairman Meow, Joseph Furballs, and Colonel Cataffy. Pretty good. Don't know what that was about. This was a list of things when I was trying to work out what I wanted to do with my life, which ultimately don't think I'll find it hard to do. Right, list of criteria were: work for myself, grow from humble beginnings like in Pokemon, harness a superpower through hard training, inventions, fuck about with friends, constantly improving self, fastest man in the world, visual / quantifiable skills, very frequent rewards. I want to own things permanently, own a house, not rent it, like in a game when you unlock something, it's yours and can't be taken away, making people laugh. Well, I'm sure Everyone will be laughing at you now, Ollie. Oh, this was a theory about Sherlock. Oh god, this is too long to... I'm not going to get into that. No. Oh yeah, that was I read Nikola Tesla's autobiography, and he talks about his father playing a game with him where he gets him to I think it was on a log out in nature somewhere. His father told him to close his eyes and picture a ball, and then he made Tesla do all these things to this imaginary ball, like change colour and cut it in half and things. And this was when he was very young, and then ultimately when he grew up, he had this really extraordinary ability to mentally visualise what he was going to create, so he could create motors in his mind, and then when he actually built them in real life, they'd work exactly as he'd seen them in his head. So I thought if you'd played noughts and crosses with people, that would be like the first step, and you could basically work on your mental imaging skills. Okay. This was a list of ideas for an invention. Macro Shack. Oh, that's like a shop, I guess, for protein shop you'd have near a gym. My Smart Journal. So it's like a journal on your iPhone that you probably dictate to and stores them in an efficient way. Institute, which actually has bad connotations, but it was like a tutor, a kind of Twitch tutor service type thing. Second brain, so something that utilises your phone and just the computer we carry around with us as a second brain somehow. Which I guess is what Elon Musk is talking about, but I don't entirely. I see it as a limitation on the technology of the AI rather than an improvement. Well, it's both, but I think if we're really going to, do this AI thing, we might as well perfect the AI. I mean, sure, humans will have to stay around for a while we're perfecting it, but once it's done, come on, guys, go. And then a non-believer, so a non-believer, as in someone who doesn't believe, but a non, as in anonymous, abbreviated. Well, it's the best. This is apparently, I thought this was the same equation. There's another equation apparently. X squared minus open brackets x minus 1 close brackets squared equals x plus x minus 1. Oh, no, sorry. Equal x squared minus open brackets x minus 1 close brackets squared equals x plus open brackets x minus 1 close brackets. There we go. It's a little speech I wrote. This is a little comedy routine I came up with. It's quite funny, Ollie. That's really bloody funny, but you just don't get to hear it. You have to wait till I'm dead, which could be bloody soon. That was actually quite a funny comedy sketch to come up with. More comedy sketches. That was actually quite a shit one. More comedy. It's actually quite an important little sketch I wrote about why I get to stop drinking. Not important, but certainly one of the reasons. Did basically just I never needed alcohol when I was a kid, and I was happy. Well, I was bloody well happier then than I am now, and so why should I need it now? More comedy. This is a Sherlock comedy thing I came up with. Oh god, it was really long. It's quite funny. More comedy routines. Oh, come on now, Ollie. Give it up. Well, that was just an idea I had. Was to ask someone for directions and then just go the complete opposite way. So get really detailed directions and then just go the opposite way to the way they told you. Want to see what happens. They probably wouldn't care. Be like, what the fuck? Advertising these days is all tact, no tact. Genius. You're so fucking clever, Ollie. You're the best, Ollie. Yeah, go fuck 'em. Good. Where are we up to dates-wise now? Oh, we're getting close to 26. Oh, this is 2016 now, apparently, this one. Came up with an invention for a kind of trading card version of chess. So commercialised chess, which probably isn't a good thing. Maybe it is, who knows. But it'd be like you can get different pieces, and, well, obviously the pieces that fit on the board, and you can't really change the rules too much. But some of them are rarer and shit like that. Like Yu-Gi-Oh cards and stuff. And you can get different boards, cool looking boards and whatnot. Some more comedy shit. Letting people walk past you if they're walking quite fast, but then speeding up so it's like you're racing them. You know, some people are not always in a rush. I quite like the idea of rushing past you and then you changing your speed to keep up. Oh, this is something about podcast. I was obviously thinking about podcasting, so these were some topics. Some things I was thinking about saying. Internally deaf. Can't quite remember the logic behind that. Something about that. Internally deaf. There we go. Sponsored by crack cocaine, apparently. That's what I wanted to say. Having to tap into the very essence of your mind is hard enough talking to someone you've just met. Imagine what it's like talking to someone you haven't and will maybe never meet, and then not even being able to evoke a response. And to top it all off, they're from the fucking future. Someone accidentally brushes your leg, and you immediately imagine them doing the most sexually abhorrent acts ever procured. Wow, what do you want? Look at that vocabulary. Blank. Do you mind if I call you Blank? I'm just saying everyone's name. What the fuck is that? Oh. I see. I think that was a time at uni when I can't remember exactly how I phrased it, but the lights in the disabled toilet weren't working, and I made some kind of joke about it not really being a problem because they're blind. So, quite insensitive, but at the same time, it was funny somehow. I can't remember the way I phrased it made it not too offensive and also quite funny. But probably would have been offensive if there'd been a blind person present, so who knows? Maybe it was offensive. You naughty, naughty boy. Oh crap, I'm back one sec. More this is all comedy. Oh, bloody comedy. Came up with a little podcast jingle. Oh no, it wasn't a podcast, sorry, it was for a comedy sketch jingle. I can't bother to try and sing it. Currently 21, but that could change at any moment. Oh, you're such a cock. See, these were some ideas for names for a podcast Ask and Hawk. Massive cocks with little dicks. Grin and bear it. Bear it for... massive pricks with little dicks. Lots of self-deprecation there, right? Okay. Oh, I think that was the jingle I came up with. It was just shitty jingle or something like that. This is a shitty jingle. I don't get the notion of drinking alcohol being a social lubricant. I don't have many friends, and when I get drunk, I can't hear the voices anymore. Just a little, again, self-deprecation about me being insane. Oh, that was awful. Quite like the idea of people using green screens to just create a red background or something like that. Tinder bio, less than a kilometre away. Trust me. God. What the fuck? Don't get it. People always go on about ending up back at square one. Why don't they just stay and make it a nicer square? One of life's greatest injustices is that when you're ill, you're unable to impersonate a little horse, sounding a little horse. So when someone tells you you sound a little horse, you're robbed of the single greatest joke of all time. What the fuck? Remember those chocolate sticks made to look like cigarettes did a good job putting me off as they were rank. Not as many people remember the follow-up. Sherbet cocaine or Fox's Glacier crystal meth. Alcohol, completed it. More fucking comedy routines, Jesus. My face is somewhat an acquired taste, an acquired face, if you will. Property is the best business plan because it's charging people for existing. The London Eye twice. London II as in Roman numerals, not Apple's response to Google Glass. Okay. Google Glass didn't catch on because they took the one thing glass has ever been good for, looking through, and made it so that was what you couldn't do with it. Comedy schmomedy. I don't know how to explain that. If you haven't got anything funny to say, don't say anything at all. whatever the phrase is, you know, you've got anything good to say, don't say anything cool. That was an idea for a book I was going to write. More comedy. More bad comedy. I was pretty into this comedy shit on my old phone. Ninja postman who delivers posts like shurikens, but always accidentally kills someone. Puts post back in postbox. Puts post back in the postbox. Don't really know what's all that there. Stupid Cupid with terrible aim. Oh, I thought that was quite a funny little sketch. It's a short one, so I'll say it. Coroner who has a breakdown every time he sees a corpse. No, God, why? It should have been me. I will avenge you. A future Olympian who in his local town has no pool, so he has to train whenever and wherever possible, i.e. bathtubs, puddles, etc. Life hack. Oh, this was a little funny thing. Like, things that obviously aren't just like stealing and things like that as life hacks. If you run out of food, well, supermarkets just leave them lying around on shelves. Next time you're around, help yourself. Oh, I quite like things that double up as useless things, like nail clipper, bottle openers. Just like absurd combinations. That was one of my favourite comedy sketches, but alright. Anyway. Products for ridiculously niche markets inspired by bar food supplies. Don't quite get that. Don't know what's wrong with there. The best thing about Special K/brand flakes is that once you've finished what's in the bag, you can just eat the box. It's exactly the same in taste and nutritional value. Gambit/Grumbo Splunkerton, Gustav Winkelsnout, Martha Sprocket Brown, Geraldine Bumplesquink, Goethe Behave, her hairy socket. It's a dog-eat-dog world, and I'm a fucking tiger. Oh, that was something. Oh, I remember this now. This was at uni. So the names were just one of the lecturers used to put up photos of famous people that might be associated with diseases or something, and we get everyone to try and guess who they were. And everyone was guessing like proper famous people, and I just shout out random names like Grumbles, what was it, fucking Gambit, Splunkerton, and Goethe Bay. And I also said that day it's a dog-eat-dog world, and I'm a fucking tiger. Well, survival of the fittest. That's gone. I've decided to start a podcast because I'm so incredibly arrogant that I think everyone in the world needs to hear what I've got to say. Oh, stepping on a rake, but instead of it hitting you in the face, it stabs through the foot. Probably more likely. Actually, not if you've got shoes on, but just an idea. Horrible idea. Well, that's pretty stupid what I say there. Oh, podcast section about using memory techniques to do well in exams. Well, that's how I did it for people. That's how I completed uni without doing uni. With stupid memory techniques. I'm not joking. I mean, years worth of work in a day. Pretty crazy. What else we got? Oh, it was Pina Stream's time. What? Don't understand that. Talking about switching to base 12. More comedy stuff. More. Stop going to lectures. Yeah, that was a good little note on it. Well done. You did it. You made it, son. Black and gold. People don't use black and gold enough. It's a bloody brilliant colour scheme. Wow, black and gold, mate. I must be getting near the end now, surely. More comedy shit. Okay, yeah. Right. Using those RC cars that cling to walls to clean shit. Not actual shit, I mean to clean things. I guess you could clean windows like that. Talking about working out here, got different exercise plans and all that. That's one of my, okay, I'll just say. So my favourite comedy sketch, a comedy routine rather, is based around, this is just part of one of the many things I go into, but shampoos always have names like Total Repair, Maximum Volume, Ultra Care, as if they're the answer to all of life's problems. But, okay, the main part, it can be stolen now, but the main part of the joke is just how they always have advertising like, for dull, lifeless hair, things like that. I'm just like, it's the only kind of advertising we're allowed to bully us into buying it. Just I see that, dull, life, oh yeah, that's me. I get that. I've just ruined I had a massive sketch about that. I've just given it away to no one. Nobody out there is ever going to hear it. Yeah, I'll still have the last laugh, Ollie. The only laugh. No one will laugh at it. It's not funny. I quite like the Corsadil mouthwash slogan as well. For people who spit blood when they brush their teeth. For people who spit blood when they brush their teeth. Now there's a catchy slogan. I always imagine it read in the style of the M&S adverts. This isn't just any Corsadil mouthwash. This is for people who spit blood when they brush their teeth. More workout stuff. What if in miniature golf the clubs and balls shrunk instead of the course? Like a full-size golf course with tiny little golf balls and clubs. An app/computer program for improving memory. At the end of the day, you answer questions like, what did you have for breakfast? Then on a future date, you ask, what did you have for breakfast 2 weeks ago today, or what did you have for breakfast on March 16th? What made you happiest today? Followed by similar questions 2 to 4 weeks after, and questions such as what happened on this particular date progresses from yesterday to years. Recipe there. Memory Palace, Memory Planet, like. His ignorance knows no bounds. A bit clever thing there. Hair is the closest equivalent to makeup for men. Said that already, haven't you, Wells? So is that close to home, is it? Still going. See, you know that test that puts you into like 16 different categories? I tried it once, and I remember getting the ENTP type, which I quite liked because apparently it was the same one as Tesla, I think. Tesla was my idol at the time. And I redid it recently, and obviously people do change, but at the same time it's so temperamental that I changed to it. I think I got the, whichever one the debating one is, I got that one instead, and then largely, I imagine, down to the fact that I started listening to a load of Sam Harris. Oh, that's something I'd like to say, actually. So, very recently, in fact, a couple of days ago, for the first time I heard Yuval Noah Harari, and it was thanks to Sam Harris. And since, I have listened to as many podcasts of Yuval Noah Harari as I can, and I plan on reading his books, but he is probably the closest person to the views I've been trying to find in the world. The other people don't seem to be realising, although I still disagree with him on something, he still has that same. So he's basically the things I agree with him most on about AI becoming the dominant species, but he seems to. I don't think he's quite as accepting of that as I am. I welcome it and think humans should give up, but he seems to believe that he just doesn't, just like a lot of people, he doesn't seem to accept that superhuman means superhuman. So if we do create superhuman, which is what I'm discussing, then there is no need for just a human. And what annoyed me about one of the things is people who were talking to him and debating with him about these topics would often speak about, and he actually talks about this as that they're not developing consciousness. But I'm trying to give you ways to I mean, there are ways we can know that they're definitely not conscious. If we can see in their code that we've coded them to just give a scripted answer, then we know that's not what we do. The best we can do is try to emulate what we do. And think, well, the controlled randomness I talk about, and I think hopefully I gave the list of things. I'm pretty sure I must have done when I was reading out that thing, but I might have missed it. I don't know. Tall as the depth of death. I'm 6 foot tall. This was before I tried to kill myself of hay fever, and succeeded, might I add, or at least it seemed like I did. It went away after a couple of weeks, and I used to have the most severe hay fever you can imagine, trust me. So the theory was to expose myself to stinging nettles. Yep. Oh, actually, the theory was exposure to stinging nettles in childhood related to hay fever development. And then I discounted it by saying obviously not pollen causes hay fever, not histamine. Use it as a way to build tolerance. Just because you have the right to vote does not mean you should. My reason for not voting seems infinitely more logical for the most common reason I hear people voted for. It's better to stick with what you know. Is it? That seems like an incredibly fickle reason to base such a big decision on. The more people who vote based on such primal instincts without any form of research aside from taking the odd morsel of propaganda on board, the more the votes of those who are making truly informed decisions are diluted. I actually have quite a bit more on this, but I don't know where I wrote it. Oh well. Lower frequency, longer wavelength waves travel farther, less energy lost per cycle. I can't be bothered to think about that now, but I imagine I was probably wrong. This was just an observation. I mean, why aren't the nozzled milk cartons in the corner? You know, like the kind of jug type ones, not the cardboard ones. But also probably the cardboard ones as well. I don't know. You always have that weird jerky first pour, you know, because of the weight of the thing being just sharbled. Oh, this was back when I worked at Argos. Oh, what happy times. That was something funny Michael said once. He said, well, I can't remember how it was. I turned it into this, I think. Know the Quran back to front. I thought it was quite funny. Because you read it from back to front. Well, relative to how we traditionally read books in the West. The West is so great. I actually believe Western values are superior to not necessarily Eastern values, but certainly many of the values portrayed in Islam. Not by Muslims, by Islam. Yes, get it right. So, for example, stoning. I don't even know who they stone. I think they stone women. I think they also stone apostates. There's a lot of stoning going on. Let's just put away the stones. Hey, maybe if we just get rid of stones, that's who are to blame, not Muslims, not Islamophobists or whatever it is. It's the bloody stones. Islamophobes. Ollie, gee, I love Islamophobes. You're fucking thick as shit. Get out of town. If you think of the brain as a computer, some people have more RAM, others a larger hard drive, and some a better processor. Wow, genius. Oh, this took me ages. I realised this like about a year ago now, I think. Hitmon Lee is Bruce Lee, and Hitmon Chan is Jackie Chan. What? Stupid was I not to realise that. Oh, this was an idea I had when I was on the train. I was going to visit my dad. I saw someone had an iPod Nano. Is it Nano? iPod Shuffle, sorry. iPod Shuffle. And they had screens now. I was like, hang on, that's like a similar size to the Apple Watch. Why don't you just put a band on it? If it had Bluetooth, which it turns out I don't think it does, then you could basically have an Apple Watch for about 50 quid. And it turns out someone else had that idea. And this comes back to the lifetime of ideas theory that I was talking about, which I imagine probably adheres to the theory, in that someone else has come up with the same theory somewhere. So ideas have a timeline, I think it was what I actually said. And it was like, I think I heard about Dennis the Menace being discovered twice at once, so two ridiculously similar comics being written at once. And it probabilistically is more likely to happen than not. Well, it probabilistically has to happen that some rare things are eventually going to happen somewhere, just given the scale of everything. Anywho. This was the idea for binary being trinary, so you have 0, 0.5 and 1, which I think actually does happen. I think that's kind of how micro SD cards and stuff work, because I was trying to work out how. I still don't really understand how you can have a micro SD card, costing a $5 and you get 16 gigs, or you can get like 256 gigs, one for £100 or something, and they're fucking tiny as shit. How are you getting all that in there, and then yet something bigger has the same, possibly less memory, like a SATA hard drive? I know that they're quicker, and etc. But I just want to know what the different method of storing memory that allows them to be so small and still have the same capacity. And I think I did look it up, and I've kind of forgotten. One-way mirror glass tube light concentrator, whatever that means. Oh yeah, I was trying to get into DIY Soylent, which I didn't think would be a real thing, but it is. I thought I'd come up with that idea, and again, ideas of a lifetime. Many other people have come up with it. I kind of do that with my morning blended shake I used to do. I had it every single day for over a year, but that would have about 1,500 calories in it. Get me through, or not. I just love the ease of it. I'm not a foodie. I'm the opposite of a foodie. I'm an e-doof. Marshmallow fluff in my smoothie. Yeah, that's a good idea. I think I tried that for a while, actually. I can't remember it. You can't really taste it when you have a massive smoothie, though. You can't really tell little nuanced flavours. I hate pandas. They can go fuck themselves. Ha ha ha. So witty. Oh yeah, this was on the back of seeing the show. I'm not sure if you heard of it. It's called, I've spoken about this before, actually, when I was reading my writings, Naked Attraction, and I quite like the idea. Well, obviously it was a massive leap towards a kind of Hunger Games dystopia in my eyes. I just don't understand how we made such a massive leap. It just got no attention. But a Big Brother reality TV show for sex addicts. And I quite like it. Common phrases misquoted, like, no skin off my duck's back, or like skin off a duck's back, no water off my back. So like no water off a duck's back. No, I can't even get it right now. Like water off a duck's back, and what is it? Is it no skin off my back? Yeah, it is. See, fucking plays with the brain. That existence is futile. Cape Horn, Cape Horn. Can't remember if it's in South Africa, maybe. Somewhere anyway. Maybe Australia. I don't know. But it sounds like gay porn. It sounds like gay porn. Cape Horn. Gay porn. Oh my god. Every vote should require a coherent reason / argument for their decision. But then who's going to read them all? Come on now. But, good idea. Well, maybe it should require reading. In fact, it probably should. But then who decides what's a good reason? Would you mind not being so aggressively attractive, please? It's very intimidating. On the subject of dating. Sly dog. This would be coming up with of Tinder bios again. I quite like the idea of a good Tinder bio. I'm not going to go through all of them because there are loads. Oh yeah, once I saw you know they have sale shirts, so just like shirts, like during a sale, clothes shops will have a load of mannequins with their shirts on just saying sale. I quite like the idea of just asking to buy a shirt sale and then go around wearing it. Just quite like the idea of wearing a shirt that says sale on it, really. I guess I could have done that quite easily. Wouldn't be that dramatic. Why would I get up early? I hate worms. If you had the power to want to be anything, what would you want to be? And I think, actually, on the Yuval Harari... When did I come up with this? When did I say that? 3rd of October 2016. I think Yuval Harari said... He must have said something similar in his book or something like that, because they quoted it at the end of the podcast I listened to today. So, again, ideas have a timeline. Yuval Harari, basically my fucking... Although, I think him and Sam Harris are probably... I mean, obviously, the only reason I know of them is thanks to YouTube algorithms, selectively breeding me into the person I am. But at the same time, I think they're probably the two most influential thinkers that people should be listening to. The logic behind their ideas. Just rather the logic, not behind their ideas, but the logic they use to reason with ideas is the best I've come across. And I think something everyone should do, and I know I do this myself, but self-proclaim, fucking, you're great, Ollie. But something I think that I do that is a good thing that other people should maybe try and do is whenever I listen to anything, even Sam Harris, who I've listened to for a long time now, and agree with on most things. Most things. I agree with them. I also disagree with them on a lot of things quite strongly, but you should, no matter what the topic is, you should always be trying to argue, debate with them in your mind. So everything they're saying, every point, you should not immediately take on board. So that's the reason I can have differing opinions, because I don't just take everything they say by rote. Oh, here's a list of some of the things. If you had the power, so this is again, if you had the power to want to be anything, what would you want to be? You'd want it to be challenging, perhaps unattainable. You'd want people to respect you for the process of trying. You'd want some form of gratification / reward for your efforts. So this is, again, Harari talks about what is people's purpose once they lose their jobs, because we're not going to need jobs really anymore for humans. And this will be kind of like during the changeover period before there's going to have to be a changeover period, an interim of humans still being the most intelligent, but preparing, no, we'll probably accept it, but preparing for AI to get to the point where they are superhuman, but they're already at the point where they're better at in specific areas, like most of our jobs. So what do people do? And I think it'll be Yuval Noah Harari is correct. And he's very similar to what I was talking about, creating simulated heaven and hell for humans, and that's basically our reward for everything we've done. And it will start out as virtual reality and augmented reality. And I think the idea of a VR cinema is quite a good idea. So a place where you go. It would probably be easier just to have it at home, but you could do like community. I think the sense of community is something we should. One of the very, very few things from religion that we are losing as we lose religion. It's the sense of community. We should try and incorporate that into secularism, rather atheism. And a good way to do that would be to have, AI places to go. Like a big old, like you could have different people could design, instead of designing movies, people design AR games, which I guess is basically what we already have with video games, but you go to a cinema to play a new movie, and etc., etc. And then you could also, obviously, it's also going to take over video games, normal video games, so you'd have multiplayer games that people just play at home and whatnot. And I think that's probably what people are going to dedicate most of their time to. And you could entirely derive purpose from it if you start introducing, like Roy in Rick and Morty, where you live a whole life. You could still conduct science experiments and do everything you think is valuable to the universe. If the physics, if simulations are good enough, you could do it in VR or just in simulations. And this is something I talked about with, thanks to their increased processing speed, you'll be able to, in fact, make scientific discoveries quicker. But obviously, eventually AI will just be able to do everything quicker than everything, so there we go. Right, talked about that for a little while, didn't I? Another idea I had was to make and sell things from a garage. Okay, so I've run out of things to do. Apparently these are my options to help give meaning back to my life. Although this suggests that it ever had or ever will have meaning, which it didn't and can't. Find your passion. Real great advice. Thanks, Summer. Oh, real great advice. Thanks, Summer. Summer, that's from Rick and Morty. Real specific. Learn a musical instrument. Why? What on earth would that accomplish? Be good for the sake of it? Feel good, knowing there are millions of people still better than you and that you've achieved nothing? Don't you dare start with that inner satisfaction bullshit. If I wanted to lie to myself to convince myself my life is worth something, I'd just do it. Gaming, done it. Bored. Gym, done it. Boring. Pointless. Sports, see above. The only thing that would be worth living for would be honing a superpower or being as smart as Tesla. Basically the same thing. I guess I could pull an able magwitch and just earn a load of money for my family because they haven't realised that existence is futile. But I feel like I was fueling the facade. Happiness is a crappy prize for trying. It's an emotion as cheap as the nearest drug. Reasons for not wanting to live on this earth anymore can be seen in observation scenes in Under the Skin. So when she's first observing humanity in Under the Skin, the movie. Naked Attraction. A stupid vegan life coach. How to live. So I'm actually going towards vegan, but this is one video of someone I actually hated. That basically I'm giving examples of what made me want to kill myself, and they're just little things like this one video of this woman showing you can be just like me, but please don't, because people can only watch so many videos in a limited time frame, so you'll steal my viewers. So in truth, very, very few can do exactly what I do. So it's just this YouTube blogger person made a video of what her daily life was. Just I don't know, I'd have to show you the video. And there was an advert before Stinkson's Simpson episode. The Stinksons, I think the episode was called. An advert, I think it was a Holly Willoughby advert of some kind of Olay cream or something. Generally, maybe want me to kill myself. So yeah, my ultimate dream would be to be Rick Sanchez with earth-bending avatar abilities, or Rick and Morty at date Unity. Also from Rick and Morty. I quite like the Fleabag TV show. I thought it was a very good show. And I quite like the little theme they played, but I couldn't find the song anywhere. I think it's just a little Sting type thing, I guess. Sting as in jingle type thing, not Sting the artist. So actually, I had to start writing things down for my lab report. More. I was actually planning a suicide note here. Don't hate self, no ambitions. So there's reasoning, if I ever had to write content with the life I've led, find society in general disgusting. Need to offer. Oh yeah, people need to offer some reason to live. rather than just say you can't kill yourself. Met with don't do it. Taken seriously, mediating a reason to kill myself is a fallacy, must give reason to live. No doubt the discussion in this post will provide a momentary boost in enthusiasm for life, but I no longer feel happiness is enough. I've had it, it feels nice, then it's gone. Now what? Wait patiently for the next run of good fortune. If I'm going to play this game, I want a better prize. Please. Ignorance is bliss, but only for the ignorant. Good luck, or time knows you'll need it. This was a Rick and Morty theory I came up with. The green goo coming out of Rick's mouth is the same that Morty gets when he has the mega seeds in his rectum. Maybe Rick isn't drinking alcohol in his flask. He turns the seeds into a drink to give him hyperintelligence. I think the reason that isn't true. I think basically, but then then I rewatched it, and he was clearly drunk, and they had the same drink. I don't know. Do you want to know who the smartest people in the world are? Dead. The better you get at pool, the less value for money you get. Religious and political beliefs are harder to shift as they are deep-rooted through practice and repetition. Sam Harris being so anti-Islam is so provocative, largely because people are unable, or at least find it difficult, to separate their perception of Islam from their friends who may be Muslims. Their knee-jerk reaction is for them to oppose Islam. Is to alienate and separate themselves from their friends. The idea needs to be clear that people are not their religion, and they must be treated as individuals. Unfortunately, I find myself leaning more towards Sam Harris' beliefs that we can no longer tolerate jihadism. Unfortunately, I don't want to tolerate jihadism. This is unfortunate. I see. This is unfortunate because it is almost impossible to detach oneself from those who have taken this concept, based on factual evidence and logical reasoning, and then used it and abused it to promote their own political agendas, which are devoid of any such thinking and ultimately racist. Basically, you're getting into bed with the enemy. Things are looking out there. I've heard people say the respect for when someone stands up for themselves in a scenario like being told to take hot food off a coach by asking why. I don't really agree. I think the question is in fact rather stupid and displays the person's ineptitude in comprehending there being reasons for things that have been established as a result of the exact scenario they are creating. Also, it shows their lack of foresight into how the scene will pan out. Of course, they will ultimately concede and nothing will have changed, but they will choose to take it as a moral victory, and in that they showed they won't be told what to do without a reason, but they have caused a stir and affected the attitudes of those around them negatively, namely the driver in this clearly non-hypothetical example. For nothing other than to gain some information any non-idiot would have been able to surmise by themselves. I'm sure people will argue against my reasoning not to vote by saying, but they're idiots with the undeserving right to vote, going to vote, so you have to. The logic they're supposedly being, you need to cancel them out. But of course that argument holds true for both sides. The only solution is for them not being allowed to vote, and I don't think I should have the right to vote either, unless I prove my understanding and reasoning. That's ultimately my reason for not voting. I don't believe I deserve the right to vote. What the fuck? Oh, fucking hell, he can't read. Had enough regrets. Like the suffragettes. Had enough regrets. An example of people jumping on the bandwagon and proceeding to go on a hit and run rampage. The YouTube videos such as the one I saw recently of a televised on some news show debate about him/her pronouns. While I do agree that a great deal of the arguments made for this right to be called whatever you like, and if other people fail to abide by your demand, they are in the wrong, are absurd. The video used cartoony references over that person's speech that kind of weird trumpet voice thing. This is just propaganda and meaningless. It only serves to detract from the argument against what is being said, as it suggests you are outright ignoring the content of what is being said, as opposed to reasoning against it and finding its faults through thought. Optimists can only be disappointed. Comedians are not dissimilar to influential scientists in that they succeed by looking at the world in innovative ways. They can be very positive influences on us, e.g. Louis C.K.'s bit about people not having the patience for the data from their phone to travel all the way to space and back. I believe it was Socrates who said it was the job of artists to guide us how to live our lives well, morally. Maybe that's why young teens seem to be so misled in their morals. They have indeed been misled by their idols, Bieber, etc. I wonder if people think in written words, much like some people think in pictures. I think that I can largely audio visually, and I think largely audio visually, and when hearing things I struggle to assign written words to the sounds unconsciously. I think this may be in part responsible for my self-proclaimed knack for phonetic wordplay. Most humans nowadays live for at least 50 years. In that time, they will have millions upon millions of thoughts. Almost undoubtedly, some of these thoughts are guaranteed to be profound, but necessarily unique. Not necessarily unique, but would almost certainly be considered ingenious in the correct context. Where was I? Questions I'd like to ask to a religious believer. Do you really believe there is a God watching you, etc., etc.? What is your opinion on other religions? Do you believe that followers of those religions truly believe in their God? And are you sure yours is the right one? What about the Greek gods? Is there any chance there really is a god of war and a guy throwing bolts of lightning, and sometimes they have kids with humans to make demigods? Do you think they were stupid for believing that? Or Ollie called it, when was this? 17th of December 2016, we're now living in a time where we can't trust facts. Religion equals management. I don't know what that's all about. What if voting worked according to a ranking system of policies? People vote by assigning values to different policies, and the mean is taken. Could be ranked just best to worst. Could be ranked just best to worst, or could be assigned an arbitrary value so that different policies carry different weight. Oh, that's something I've always hated politics for, in that you're basically it's entirely voting for the person rather than voting for their beliefs. Or voting for what they stand to implement. So all the time, people are like, oh, I don't like David Cameron, but I don't care whether you like... I don't like David Cameron, I don't like a lot of the Conservative views, but the point should be that I don't like the policies they stand to instigate in power. So yeah, I don't think there should be people campaigning. I think it should be ideas put forward and then anonymously, and then whoever it turns out and put forward those ideas, should be the ones in power, I guess. Or maybe there shouldn't be like a person in power. You shouldn't be a thingy. The idea should be carried out by government, which consists of many different people. I don't know. I'm not a fucking political genius, alright? Just leave me alone. Just a better idea than what we got, I think. Basically, vote for policies rather than people. But obviously we can't do that at the moment, so we'd have to edit the system. Wouldn't work in the current system just to only read the policies and ignore the people. Because of the way the system works. System, fuck the system, more system. It's just a word. Right. I don't like being a pawn in their game of Monopoly. Profoundly profound. I tried to design an experiment for consciousness, but I completely forgot to write it down. There is nothing we grow more attached to than our ruts. Is it possible to tickle oneself? It is possible to tickle oneself. You know, if you ever try and tickle yourself, you can gently touch the very top of your arse crack. That tickles oneself. Reproducibility. Oh, this is about science. Reproducibility gone. Need to come thick and fast. Quantity. Oh, this is why I hate pharmacology. Quantity, not quality. Old days, a new discovery would spur a whole load of experiments trying to emulate it. Now just taken as fact and base new experiments off of it. So as in, the facts that are established in one experiment are immediately assumed to be correct in the following one, rather than testing the same facts by different methods. Science is, or at least should be, a highly sceptical endeavour. There should be no one more sceptical than the scientist. Oh yeah, I had an idea for meditation, which I've never been able to do once. I tried a few times and failed. But instead of listening to your breath, you can get like a stethoscope and tape it to your chest so you focus on the sound of your heartbeat. What the fuck? So some of these notes have just clearly gone missing. What happens when 2 photons? It just ends there. Bike-powered ticket drill with unloaded at 2. Missing loader. Science purge with massive cash prize to whoever disproves the best theory. God, Bible/Quran, etc. are dictators. Literally dictating what to do. This was back in so this was when I actually decided to write down. I watch every YouTube video. I watch everything I can. I listen to everything that I could if it was available to me at 2 times speed. This was an idea I had when I was really young. I remember asking a friend if I watched TV at 2 times speed, would my brain start to think faster? And he basically said, "Oh, how could you? Because we've just been learning about neurons, and obviously they travel with electrical signals, and you can't change the speed at which electricity travels." But that wasn't what I was talking about. It was more a matter of you can speed up and slow down the speed at which you talk. You can talk really fast, or you can talk really slow. And I realised that there's an internal voice in your head. So if you could basically speed up or slow down that, would you be able to think faster in that regard? And effectively, that's what I'm doing by listening to things at 2 times speed. I'm content with my contempt. Jellied heels. Poison IVF. Like poison ivy. Oh, fucking hell, that's funny. I don't want to be rich anymore. I'd just be bored with more things. Worst gross moral needle mover equals child abuse. Ramifications. I don't know what I was talking about there. I realise there's little reason for us not to exist, or rather to cease existing, but I struggle to think of a reason for us to exist. By which I mean, why bother? This probably comes across as an incredibly nihilistic viewpoint, and I don't deny that it is. I can't express how delighted I'd be for someone to provide a valid counter to such reasoning. However, beyond denying that the proposed future will eventually, the crucial word, come to pass, I simply can't assign a role or purpose to humans. Many people believe this to be the case for eternity. I believe it was Camus who made the very apt comparison of humans to Sisyphus. But I differentiate between the two on the basis that in our current situation we're able to extract a morsel of pleasure in the knowledge that we are the most intelligent species that we know of. This would of course disappear in the presence of a creature that is by definition superior. I have in the very process of writing this come to a possible counter-argument that may be made. Think of the most outstanding athlete in any field. I use Usain Bolt for my example. Imagine, after years of being the fastest runner in the world, without any true threats to his title, a new law is passed that permits cheaters to compete alongside humans. I would argue he is left with few choices. I'll postulate 4, but I haven't had time to calculate thoroughly. He can choose to compete in the same vein, under no illusion that he will ever regain his title or even be considered a top-flight athlete. He can give up entirely. This is where the analogy breaks down, as this leaves him the option of pursuing any other field in which he could become the best in existence, not a possibility with my AGI. He can choose to compete against himself, intrinsically, strive to become the best athlete that he can be, probably the most relevant option, but one that leaves a bitter taste in my mouth. Or he can refuse to compete with the cheaters and pretend he is only competing against the people he had been before the alteration, denying that anything has changed. No matter what field they are superior, they would even be better at being human, the one distinction we would instinctively make between us. I like to think that we are in fact making advances on critical moral issues, e.g. the abolition of slavery, the gay rights movement, gender and race equality. Of course these problems are far from solved, albeit slowly, or at least slower than would be desired in an ideal universe. If we imagine two populations of humans, identical in all respects, population size, morality, etc., with one exception, the speed with which their mind processes information, we'll call them norms, and the accelerated processes humanes, with AI in it, for distinction's sake. Without knowledge of the other population, their perceptions of time are warped with respect to one another. In a year of real time on planet norm, a typical year's worth of socio-moral, I do believe if I've just made that word up, progress is made. However, on planet humane, I regret this pathetic attempt at wordplay already. The exact same 1 year of real time has passed, but they've been able to make advances that would have taken 10,000 years for planet norm. I'm not usually great at preparing hypotheticals, and I'm aware that I'm overlooking all sorts of physical laws that would complicate matters, but I believe the underlying concept stands. As long as the two planets exist separately, no real problems arise. However, if we were to introduce one population to the other, after a period of 5 years or so, we'd expect all manner of conflict to break out, and probably a great deal of contempt for the norms from the humanes. This is of course very different from the future we're attempting to visualise. However, if we make a slight modification and instead of putting the two populations on separate planets, they are forced to co-inhabit the same planet, if kept separate, it's as if they are operating in two frames of time, but this dynamic collapses when the two meet, and this poses moral conundrum catastrophe. Perhaps it's possible we will create a tenuously similar scenario, but occurring more internally, in the separate minds rather than planets. If this were the case, can you imagine how frustrating it would be for both parties? Any attempt by the norms to keep up is impossible, almost by definition. Any advance in understanding, even if taught by the humanes, will have allowed time to pass, simultaneously putting them behind again. You're absolutely right, there would be good humans who would be extinct too, but with this line of inquiry, we're likely to find ourselves tangled in a rather depressing and complicated discussion on eugenics. I don't actually think that extinction is the end game. I certainly hope not. I was trying to use the example as the absolute doomsday scenario to convey just how willing we must be to respect authority. Of course, this sentence is likely to make us feel queasy. Questioning unconditional obedience, it's hard to imagine as anything other than dictatorial. However, this hypothetical is unlike anything we've ever encountered, and obedience is probably best replaced by humbleness, at which point it starts sounding a bit more like worshipping a deity. But is this far from the truth? In such a milestone as creating a new superspecies, we are as close as we're likely to come to playing God. And at the same time, we'll have created the closest thing we're likely to know as a God. I suppose the reason I asked my original question of what our role would be is because I'd like there to be one, even if I can't see it immediately. Ideally, it would be a purposeful role, but I have difficulty dividing one that fits such criteria in a scenario where two entities exist and one of them is outmatched in every respect. One answer may be that AI will never outperform humans in every field, and that will always have some skill specific only to humans, but this seems doubtful given enough time. Also, my vision of the truly advanced AGI is basically a human on steroids, by which I mean any human skill imaginable is possible and able to be performed more effectively and efficiently. If this turns out to be the case, and there really is nothing we can do that we would consider purposeful by today's standards, I realise that purpose is highly subjective, but most of us have at least similar underlying motives. Then we either have to change our concept of what is purposeful, or be content with not really having one, which is not an uncommon position anyway. Your unconscious brain must prepare thoughts that arise in response to external stimuli, so that they are fit for conscious consumption. Nothing can enter conscious thought before unconscious, because all conscious thought is just a manifestation of a select few of unconscious thoughts. Consciousness is an illusion in the same way that free will is an illusion. Sam Harris would fight back against that, saying that it's the only real thing that can't be an illusion, but I'm talking about it's an illusion from the perspective of the universe, not from the perspective of the experiencer. Obviously, you can't. Your experience of experience can't be an illusion. But in terms of the outside looking in, I think it is an illusion. It's just, the way it works, isn't it? Do sharks only eat things that are already bleeding? Pretty stupid business model. People need to change mentality from I won't be happy until I have to I will also be happy when I have. Even seeking enlightenment is liable to the problem of wanting. The idea is to learn not to want. Learn not to want, but first you have to want nothing. You have to want nothing. Training oneself to dream about things. Does consciousness come hand in hand with language? At the very least, communication, which is built upon the foundation of realization of self and understanding of being a separate entity with regards to others. Which came first, chicken and the egg? Can you have consciousness and not language / communication? Can you have language / communication without consciousness? Yes, you can. I think what I was talking this was coming down to my criteria for consciousness, one of which being some form of communication, and then continuing a kind of conversation in the mind. Internal monologue, basically. The only hard problem of consciousness is remembering the S that comes before the second C. AGI will get to the point where it can improve itself to a point where it can run simulations so fast that it can gain what we would value as a millennia's worth of knowledge in moments. It could run 2 simulations to determine what the impact of any change, small or enormous, would be, e.g. should all AGIs be connected, or should they exist with separate minds, etc., should they have government, etc. The idea of consciousness being an illusion confuses some people, because usually it is our consciousness which is being illusioned / tricked. And how can the thing which is tricking the thing also be the thing that's being tricked? It's more a matter of the thing being tricked isn't our consciousness, and as this is the only way by definition that the so-called us can experience anything, we can't comprehend the illusion in the same way. We must instead realise that the illusion regards something other than our experience. The thing that is being tricked is in fact the underlying neural network that gives rise to our thoughts and piecing together of the stimuli of the world, and subsequently our conscious experience. The vast majority of conflicts of beliefs can be resolved by, or rather are the result of, differences in the understanding or ascription of meaning to different words. The truth misunderstanding between Jordan Peterson and Sam Harris being a prime example, I think. Oh yes, so in that discussion between Sam Harris and Jordan Peterson, they couldn't agree on what truth meant, and ultimately I think Jordan Peterson was wrong, because I think it was just a confusion of lexicon. I think Jordan's meaning of the word truth is far better suited to a word like right, as in which the They're synonyms, but right has more connotations of what Jordan was talking about. And it also doesn't, and some of the things he was saying conflicts with what true should mean. Extrapolation, hypothetically shrinking or enlarging physical entities especially, is an extremely useful tool for simple problems, but can be misleading in more complex systems. Is consciousness anything more than the ability to ask oneself questions, and subsequently answer them to the best of one's ability by comparison to past experiences, real or simulated, dreamt? These questions can be asked in many ways, however. They can be asked via the internal monologue we all know and are, or they can be asked by what some may consider as the subconscious, to which we, the conscious being, exists downstream of, and simply catch a glimpse of via senses we can understand, sound, vision, etc. I have multiple issues with the consciousless zombie problem. First of all, I dislike any idea that begins, if evolution could have done such and such, why didn't it? I think this question shows a lack of understanding of evolution, and the simple answer, which is absolutely valid and entirely accurate, no matter how dissatisfying it may be to you, is because it didn't. It doesn't need a reason, it's a random process. Also, in a world where these beings are behaving like humans, but have no conscious experience, it is granted that they are talking. Well then, what are they talking about? It may seem like a silly question, but ultimately consciousness allows problems to be spread among masses, to divide the workload and subsequently share findings to reach conclusions. Any post-mortem biography that makes any statement about someone's views or opinions should not do so if it requires even a seemingly obvious inference from text or whatever. Only if it is explicitly stated can it be considered true, and even then it ignores the possibility of sarcasm and inability of the subject to refute the statement. If I ever did a podcast, I'd have to provide an in-depth disclaimer as to my reservations to expressing oneself in such a manner. The pretentiousness that exudes the feeling of self-worth and superiority. You have to at some level value your own opinions and judgments over others, but at the same time the deep self-conscious need for validation. It also entails conveying, intentionally or not, a sort of overconfidence and proclamation of your views being correct indefinitely, and at the very least reluctant to change, because you know that once said, they are documented potentially eternally. These problems are diluted, but not solved by maintaining anonymity. This is likely vacuous, however, as the influence for such a manoeuvre is likely due to a desire to at first test the water to make sure you can save face if you are made a fool of, with the intention being to ultimately reveal yourself once you've been accepted and receive the credit you feel you deserve. Have this disclaimer as the first episode so it can be referred to in all future episodes. The impossibility of free will makes it incorrect to take credit for anything about yourself in the sense of you having earned it, and that being a testament to your character that other people could achieve but choose not to. It does, however, allow taking credit in the sense that you can differentiate yourself from others. Your abilities, regardless of whether they feel as though they were earned through hard work or not, are subsequent to physical processes predetermined at the initiation of the universe. Therefore, everything, even your capacity for determination, cannot be credited to anything other than probability. Even the circumstances that gave rise to the creation of the universe are independent of change. The guy who says he wants to feel the guilt of running over a child regardless of the existence of free will is justified, but doesn't rely on the existence of free will. It makes sense to feel this guilt, because I believe we can all agree that feeling good feels better than feeling bad, right? Well, although it may seem on the face logical to not feel bad about anything, this ignores the repercussions this would entail. Particularly, it is important to realise that we're obsessed with it and deeply affected by our knowledge of what happens to us if we were the victim of or subject of certain situations. This can be seen with matters such as necrophilia. Why should we mind? On the face of it, we know we couldn't possibly mind because we'd be dead. However, we are attached to the idea of our future self, dead, alive, perceived as by others, etc., and as a result wish to increase our confidence in the probability of such a matter, which would be out of our control, being very low. And as a result wish to increase our confidence in the probability of such matter, which would be out of our control, being very low. Of course, we would infer that the probability of it happening to us would be higher if we were okay with it happening to others. I should not have the right to vote on all matters, perhaps some, but certainly not all. If running a podcast, don't use ads, instead be extremely open about how much money you have. If you want to be extreme, show bank statements, but this could be risky, and ask people to fund you. Say, if you have less money than me, please do not send me any of your money. This is not to say that anyone who has more money than me should feel obligated to give me some either. Best word for Jordan Peterson's idea of truth is just. Perhaps right, but just is better. So just and then justice, not just. So replace truth with just. I think that works very well. It's in place of truth for Jordan Peterson's idea of truth, which is wrong. Amendment. Do unto others as they would have you do unto them, provided you can and want to do it. Oh yeah, do unto others as they would have you do unto them. I suppose do unto others as you would have them do unto you, something like that. Sound conflicts with people are often down to differences in vocabulary. With Mariam Namazi, she clearly has an incomplete view of what the word profiling literally, and I use that word literally, means. Okay, upon further listening, it is clear that the problem is far deeper in this case. For want of a better word, she is clearly pretty stupid. Similarly, more clearly in fact, with Jordan Peterson, they have different meanings ascribed to the word truth. Now Sam's meaning makes far more logical sense, and Jordan's meaning is far better suited to the word just, as in right. One of my dreams would be a complete dietary replacement available in the form of strawberry pencils. Emulating taste would be unreasonable to expect, but consistency sounds plausible. Easily quantifiable portions, easy storage and portability, they look cool. Innovations in medicine result in increased life expectancy and subsequently greater risk of age-related diseases. No, this is all. If someone will without doubt become a bad person on account of losing their faith, then I wouldn't want to take it from them. I do, however, dislike the idea of people relying on religion to be good people. As we become more knowledgeable about science, religion becomes less plausible, which one would hope would cause people to question their faith. What I want is for people to be prepared for this and to realise that religion isn't necessary to be a good person. In fact, it cheapens it, because you're doing it in hope of a reward in another life. And the idea that without religion, life has no purpose is true, and that life has no true purpose, religion or no religion, except what purpose you give it, and that purpose can be far more admirable and fulfilling without a belief in the supernatural. I'm starting to question how big a role environmental factors play in the development of personality. I used to think it was the most dominant factor, but now I'm inclined to believe that genetics is the driving force. This seemed at first to have few drastic ramifications, but when considering adoption, makes the idea less appealing. Of course, academia and qualifications are a good indicator, but our reliance on them is debilitating. I'm not saying I'm an intellectual to any degree. In fact, you should never take someone's intelligence to be what they say it is. I'm saying you should come to your own conclusions based on my reasoning and ability to conduct myself. Well, Sam is correct in saying that many jihadists are in fact well educated, and it is worrying what percentage of British Muslims believe in unfair treatment of women and apostates, gays, etc. Those topics can be and should be rectified through education. We as a society have come to an understanding on those topics through logic and reason, and we should provide the exact same logic and reason to help people understand why women deserve equal rights. We can prove using science that they themselves could just as easily have been born a female, and why it's wrong to have homosexuals, and why it's wrong to why it's wrong to hate homosexuals, and why it's wrong to kill apostates. That was quite a serious slip up there. My apologies. People are just the sum of their past encounters and experiences. Religion. Do the pros outweigh the cons? Is it good or bad? The best we can do is argue. Unfortunately, good morals don't naturally win. Many are built on foundations which are simply overpowered by the ruthlessness of bad morals. Pacifism being a great example. We really are on the verge of becoming God. We will even have the opportunity to create heaven, and will be the ones to decide who gets to go there. should be everyone, no need for hell or punishment, allowing superior AGI to continue our legacy in the real world. An important attribute of consciousness as we know it is the fact that it continues to operate without input from the outside world. It can self-perpetuate and exist independently, not just turn on and off when needed. However, humans don't even do that well. We lose our minds after often less than a week in isolation. AGI won't do that if we get it right. Now, disclosure on one side. Premeditated mouth sounds. Technological versus moral progress due to human biology. It's hard to take on new ideas. Oh yes, this is the idea that I can't remember if I've already spoken about this now. So technological advancement is exponential. If you look at a curve, there's some really good graphs of it. Basically, in the last 100 years, the curve has just gone straight up. But if you think about moral advancement, it's basically stagnant for years. So it's kind of very much a traditional slow slope, little ups and downs and stuff. So which is why humans won't ever be able to keep up with the AGI's morals, because they'll be able to increase exponentially and we won't be able to keep up. Okay, so due to human biology, it's hard to take on new ideas regardless of whether they're good or bad. If they aren't in accordance with our existing views, moral progress requires one assumption: good morals are founded on, or at least agree with, good logic. They stand up to scrutiny. How amazing AGI world would be for rich people. So if you think about the world as it is for rich people, they still have to worry about seeing poor people around, which must ruin their experience. But in an AGI world, they need those poor people to do the jobs of the poor people. What about in an AGI world where, a subhuman AGI, so it doesn't have any emotions or anything, and they could fulfill all those jobs, and they'd have no need for poor people anymore. They'd have a perfect world to themselves. So we've got to try to avoid that. I imagine all the people who want to watch the world burn have something a little more emphatic than a slowly increasing temperature and a hole in the ozone layer. Religious is a serious concern when it comes to immigration. If someone holds different cultural views and morals that can be proved to be wrong, or at least less moral through reason, they are far, far less likely to accept and adhere to a higher moral standard if they believe their morals have been dictated and mandated by an all-seeing God. Again, reason is a necessity. If two people want to join you in your country, there should be few reasons to turn them away. If, however, they believe something that is demonstrably wrong, stoning women, etc., not to single out Islam, despite it being the most pertinent example, then whether that belief is manifested as part of their religion or not is a deciding factor. If one person believes they are doing what they do on a foundation of faith, there can be no guarantee that they will ever relinquish that belief in light of evidence based on logic, backed by logic. However, if their beliefs are grounded in a crude form of reason, superior logic should take precedence. And that'll do it. Good God, how long's that? An hour and a half? Fucking hell, man. What utter garbage.